Hey, happy May! It's only May 2nd, and I don't know about you, but May's calendar seems to be just packed with all kinds of activities. There are graduation parties, Mother's Day, National Teachers Day, Memorial Day, and oh, let's not forget the oh-so-important National Hamburger Day on May 28th. But on a much more serious note, this Thursday, May 4th, is the National Day of Prayer. I'll take just a quick second for you history buffs, or if you want to impress a history buff with your knowledge. The National Day of Prayer here in the U.S. was created in 1952 by a joint resolution of the United States Congress and signed into law by President Harry S. Truman. Oh sure, there were calls to prayer before then, like in 1775 when the Continental Congress asked the colonies to pray for wisdom in forming a nation, or President Abraham Lincoln's proclamation of a day of humiliation, fasting, and prayer in 1863. But it was declared an annual National Day of Prayer in 1952, and then in 1988, the law was amended and signed by President Ronald Reagan to permanently set the day as the first Thursday of every May. So, in light of the National Day of Prayer, I wanted to take a moment today and look at what Jesus says about prayer from the book of Matthew, chapter 6, where we find the Lord's Prayer. Now, I encourage you to take some time today, or really soon, to read and just ponder what Jesus tells us in this chapter. But let me quickly share some insight I've gained from it just this week. Matthew chapter 6 has 34 verses. The actual prayer that Jesus gives us as a model, the Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be your name, is only 4 verses long, verses 9 through 13. But let's look at what surrounds it. The NIV version breaks the chapter down into 5 sections, which are giving to the needy, prayer, fasting, treasures in heaven, and do not worry. 2 of these sections come before the Lord's Prayer, and 3 sections come after. So Jesus has surrounded his model for prayer with these themes. Now here is my one-sentence synopsis of each of these themes. Giving. Don't let the desire for people to applaud you for being generous be your number one treasure. Prayer. Don't let the desire for people to look up to you for being so spiritual be your number one treasure. Fasting. Don't let the desire for people to be amazed by your self-sacrifice be your number one treasure. Treasures in heaven. Where your number one treasure is, there will your heart be also. And do not worry. Worry and anxiety come when anything or anyone besides God is our number one treasure. Do you see the common thread here? Jesus is asking us to ask ourselves, what or whom do I treasure the most? He's showing us that very good things like giving and praying and fasting can become bad things if while doing them we treasure other gods like people's approval more than we treasure God himself. So maybe the even more specific question we can ask is, what do I treasure more than I treasure God himself? Now for you, maybe it's not people's approval of your giving, praying, and fasting skills. Maybe it's their approval of your parenting skills, or your boss's approval of your professional skills, or your community's approval of your material possession gathering skills. Or maybe your number one treasure has nothing to do with people's approval. Maybe it's the treasure of financial security, or the treasure of perfect health for you and your loved ones. Maybe it's the treasure you long for, like having a spouse, having a child. Your treasure is that thing, or that person, that circumstance, that whatever you believe will bring you the greatest fulfillment, the greatest happiness, the greatest sense of purpose. It's what your heart is focused on. Now, Jesus so beautifully and brilliantly, like the gentle shepherd he is, guides us in this as he teaches us to pray, saying, Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. The verb hallowed is an old English word, and there's not really a modern word that communicates it completely. The Greek word is hagiadzo, which means set apart as holy or pure. To hallow something is to treat it as sacred and ultimate, to make it the most important treasure in your life. To encourage us in this, Jesus doesn't remind us of the first 10 commandments, thou shalt have no other gods before me. No, he simply says to pray, Our Father, reminding us today of our Father in heaven, our Father who loves us so much that he sent his Son Jesus to take all our sin and shame upon himself, to take the punishment we deserve so that we could have eternal life with him, so that we can see how deep and wide and unfailing and great is the love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God. So this Thursday is the National Day of Prayer. My hope that every day will be a personal day of prayer for us as we consider our Father and make him our number one treasure. Please check out Matthew chapter 6 this week, and after that, check out some continued thoughts about that chapter on my website. Thanks so much, friends, for watching. Hey, please share this video with your friends, and let's love and live for Jesus this week.